happy Father's Day. All the fanfare is over. The family has gone home and it's really nice outside. So I felt like coming out and taking a walk through the garden. I spent an hour or so out here this morning before church, but I haven't really, other than giving some garden tours to the family, haven't been out here much, but it's so peaceful and the birds are chirping, and with the sun being hidden by the clouds, it just looks so pretty out here. So I thought I would just take you guys on a little garden tour. Everything is really taking off, including this ginormous sunflower and its little friends, and the zinnias right here, and some marigolds and bee balm. This is all looking really nice out here. I have these huge sunflowers right next to the entrance of the gate, so I think that'll be really cool when they grow up and flank that gate. And thankfully I have some stakes there I can support them with. So these are all sunflowers or zinnias all along here in the front, so I think that'll be really fun. And on June 3rd, I did this sort of panoramic right here, and I'll post the old video because it's crazy how much different it looks in 3 weeks. Just completely, almost wild. So when we first come in here to what I call Tomato Alley or Tomato Row, these are all my slicers and my beefsteaks and my paste tomatoes all coming in, getting really tall. In fact, I've had to start staking them, taping them up against the fence because they were kind of starting to fall over. I'm still having to prune some of their bottom stems as they get taller to keep those. This is what's happening. These branches are getting so long that they're coming down here and touching the ground, and like when it rains and that backsplash gets on them is when they start turning yellow. So I've had to clip quite a few branches off of all of these to keep that from happening. And this enormous sunflower back here is really taking off. He's pretty much shading those two tomato plants. Not entirely, but anyway, they look good. He's about the size of this German pink potato leaf tomato plant right here. Look at these leaves. They're enormous, enormous leathery leaves. Looking good. This one over here looking good too. So tomato row is coming along, and these purple dwarf peas are coming in, and they're so beautiful. And I actually just found a full-grown one hidden back here that we had missed, and the reason we missed it was because it was striped. It was the color of the leaves and the purple, like zebra striped, and my kids already devoured it, but it was so cool looking, but I totally missed it. So you know, these are really starting to take off, and they're really tasty. They're just like a sugar snap pea, but they're just a beautiful purple color. These carrots are looking super bushy. And what?
Guess what?
What? So the carrots definitely down here especially are getting nice and bushy, and I've got several beets in here that are really heading up. We pulled one of them just for fun, and it was about 2 or 3 inches. So I'll be able to pull those here in the next couple weeks, depending on how big I want to let them get. There's some more. And then we start getting into, well, more carrots, but all the bush beans that I put in here, which are looking really nice. These really big leaves are starting to really fill out, and the pest damage has really kind of come to an end at this point because their immune system is really taken off. And then my Boothie's blonde cucumber back here. I'm starting to see a bunch of baby cucumbers, but this will be the first one to harvest right here, which I can't wait to try that thing. But there's a lot of little babies in there. starting to come out, and once they take off, they take off. So I've got 3 plants there, and then I've got these Armenian, 1, 2, 3. The Armenian cucumbers are starting to fill out too, so they'll start climbing up this fence as well, and they'll be the longer cucumbers, whereas the Boothie's Blonde are only about 3 to 5 inches long. And then I took the net trellis down here on this fence line, and I put a part of it over here on this ladder to kind of help get these cantaloupes growing up, because they're starting to take off. They were really slow going, which I guess is typical of melons. But now they're really starting to take off and they're starting to send out shoots and climbers. You can really see this guy over here trying to climb. So I've got to come out here every day and give them some guidance as far as where to go. It's hard to do with the camera. Get this guy in here. There we go. This is where I want you to grow. There we go. So I can get them going up this trellis. That would be excellent, because there's not much room on the ground, as you can clearly see with this bed. This is the Three Sisters bed. So I've got corn that is now reaching up to my thigh and upper thigh and waistline here. These pole beans that are still reaching for the skies, that I might have to come back in and do some single threads just for them. I had to take the trellis down because I couldn't get back in to check on these squashes that are back here in the back. So I had to take that trellis down so I could get back in there. But so far, everything's looking really healthy. They're sending out runners, like this guy back in here. This is going to be a gigantic pumpkin plant that, unfortunately, well, it has plenty of space, but it's going to be huge, and I think it's going to end up taking over this one, and I'll just have to see how that works. But I've got those 2 pumpkin plants filling out. I've got some bush beans interplanted with the pole beans, and then I'm getting into my patty pan squash in here, which are looking really pretty and are starting to set their first fruits. Let me show you right in here. Where's my finger? There we are. So right down in there, you see a little patty pan. Right here, see a little patty pan squash. So these are definitely a little slower developing compared to the golden zucchini that's been coming in. All the golden zucchini is really, those are about 3 or 4 inches long, and I actually hand pollinated all of these. So they should be getting their full growth here in the next week or so, maybe within this week. I'm not even sure. This guy is really sending off his fruit too, down in there. You can see those coming in. These are these 2 plants that are, I call them sister plants, or brother sister really. They're the same exact variety, but look at the difference in these leaves. This plant is this just beautiful silver foliage, and it's the only one like that in the garden. I have some that have some hints of silver in them, like that one and this one. But this one is just, oh, it's just beautiful, and it's a gorgeous contrast to everything else out here. I mean, that's what you see when you walk in. It's so pretty. But this is the same exact plant, and it looks completely different. And here's some variegated nasturtium hiding in here, but it doesn't really hide because that white really pops out among all this green. They're really pretty. This is our frog bath. We have released Todd the toad from our egress window and have put him in the garden, and he likes to hop around, so we gave him a little bath back in here he can sit in. I've got some sunflowers that are reaching up. They're not as big as the ones up front, but they're tall. And more beans, more squash, and this is the golden zucchini right in here. This is all golden zucchini. And then these are my 2 dark star zucchinis, which are the green ones, and they've just started setting off their fruit in here too. So I'm gonna have to start watching those so I can pollinate those if I need to. There's another one back in there. And then we're moving into the potatoes, which are just huge. Those in there are almost up to my waist. And I actually had to transplant a watermelon plant because I had one on that side and I had one down in here. And because they're supposed to grow really well with potatoes, but I think that it was just getting too shaded back in that little area. And so I actually moved it over there where that little trellis is. And for right now, I'm keeping this one here because he's starting to get taller, and I think he'll be able to grow up like I intended him to, and have plenty of sun, especially once I take down these peas. And my sister-in-law was here today, and she was oohing and ahhing over these peas, and they're at least almost 7 feet now, 6-7 feet up. And over here, where I don't have as tall of a trellis, they're kind of starting to come forward and mesh in with these, but they're sending out tons and tons of fruit. And I send the kids out here every day. I sent the kids and their cousins out to pick the peas. I think most of them get eaten on harvest, but which actually that's when they're the best. But just tons and tons of peas in here on this, and of course these huge potato plants back in there that are looking good. Radish is here, and if you didn't know, after the flowers fall off, they'll create these little seed pods like this that you can actually eat, and they taste like a cross between radish and horseradish. I love them. My nephew wasn't as impressed, but I think they're pretty awesome. Another sunflower there, and these are my other beefy tomatoes. I've got another German pink here with those big potato leaves. These are my pork chops, which are the green with the yellow stripes, or yellow with green stripes. And my, I've just dropped the name. Pork chop. Gold medals are here. They're my yellow orange tomatoes, and I can't even remember what those are. I'll have to go look it up. I've just completely dropped it. But I think they're a green tomato. And I'm trimming parsley or cilantro off this every day, and they continues to come back. I had one that was trying to bolt, so I clipped off the top, and I'm just going to continue to prune on these every day because I can put them in my juice if nothing else. And my basil is really taken off, so that'll really start producing here pretty soon. Here are my peppers, looking really good. My sweet peppers, my red King of the North. Bells, my sweet golden treasure. They're like a slender orange sweet. Cilantro in here. These are my, pretty sure these are the Traveler strain jalapenos. My eggplants are really getting tall. They're starting to look more eggplanty. These are my ANCHO gigantes, which are the poblano peppers. Of course, my tomatillas that I've shown you that are up to my, I can't show you, but they're up to my waist. Up to my waist easily. And then these serranos that I've got tucked down in here. They're starting to set some fruit. So, and then these are all my cherry tomatoes in here. Oh, and Leroy. Hi, Leroy. I didn't realize you were out here. So these are all my cherry tomatoes, many of which when I planted them, I was not sure they were going to make it. They just looked piddly and small, and I was just hoping for the best, and they have all completely taken off and look really healthy and really good. In fact, this one over here is my tallest tomato plant in the garden, my Napa Chardonnay over there. So, hey, it's a testament to you never know. And just give it a try, because I gave all these a try and they've come back with fervor, including this one, which I actually planted from seed in May when all my original ones died. I planted this, replanted the seeding in May, and these have done really well. And some Swiss chard coming in that's looking beautiful. Rainbow Swiss chard. So I've got some yellow, red, white. There's our white ribbed one in here, and a pink, super pretty. and the yellow. So I'm gonna hopefully harvest that here in the next day or so and saute that up. Some on this side too, along with the red romaine. But I want to show you this Napa Chardonnay tomato plant. It is looking really good. These are each 4 inches, so easily 2.5 feet tall. This one right here, it looks really good. And its brother is not far behind him. And then I just interplanted some beans in here too. Over here, some beans in here, some bush beans. They do well with strawberries. And then the kale is still coming in. We're clipping off this pretty regularly, so most of these leaves look small because we've been clipping on them. So yeah, these are looking really pretty. So that is that. Well, I can show you the pumpkins and the squash over there, but this garden is just really taking off. It's super fun to come out here every day and see what's growing, what's changed, what's popping up. So the kids' garden slash squash and pumpkin garden, as I call it now, is probably becoming my favorite. And I think because it's just the growth is exponential every day. This is the big pumpkin plant whose leaves are now elephant ear size. Just enormous leaves, and they're just so fun to watch. And even the stalks on this thing are huge. I'll get my hand in there and see how big these are. Just huge. And this thing is going to be soon taking over this whole space, I have no doubt. Just like this guy. These are the little pumpkins I was showing you in the other garden that are nowhere near this big. And I'm going to attribute that to the fact that I put compost under this bed before I planted it. And these plants are just substantially healthy. Not that the others aren't, but I've noticed more exponential growth in these. And I think it's because even the marigolds are huge compared to the other ones. So I'm going to attribute that to the fact that I did sort of a trench gardening and put compost under the dirt and mixed it in, even unfinished compost. And that's why this is taking off, because my 2 pumpkin plants on the other garden are a third or a fourth the size of this one. So, and my cantaloupe here is really taking off. This one's definitely bigger than the others, and I don't know why that is, other than maybe it has a little bit more room to grow. So I'm going to try to train it up this, and I might have to add a fourth stick or something to give it more room to grow. Or I might just end up having to make some sort of arbor here, truthfully, for that to grow over, to give this thing enough room to grow. Yeah. So these are now mystery tomatoes because I planted them. One of them's kind of hidden. See, I think this pumpkin plant grew even today because this morning these leaves were under that tomato plant and now they're on top. So that is how fast this thing is growing. So I'm trying to trim these stalks back to keep it from growing over this tomato plant until this thing gets taller. And when it's taller, it shouldn't be as big of a deal. But anyway, I've got these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tomato plants in here, and they are looking really good, but I can't remember what they are. I forgot to write it down or video it when I planted it. So it's going to be interesting to see what we have growing over here. I know one of these is a Brad's Atomic Grape, and one's a pork chop, and I think one's a large barred boar, if I remember correctly. And then here are some more bush beans, a marigold that hasn't flowered but it's huge. The kids' strawberries and lettuce, more potatoes all through here that are enormous as well. And this watermelon, which is doing really well, and it'll fill out this whole space. It'll grow back in there, all through here, and unfortunately will probably take over this space where I've got these 2 Armenian cucumbers. So these will grow up this, and the point was for this to grow up this as well, which it is. You can see it grabbing onto that fence, so it may work. I may have some on the ground and some growing up this 7-foot trellis, so it'll be interesting to see how all that pans out. And then this golden zucchini is really wide and open, which is interesting to compare it to the patty pan, which is really condensed. Like the leaves on this one are much more condensed and close together, where the golden zucchini is like spread out, which is actually good because squash plants get powdery mildew really easily, especially when it's hot and it's been raining. So they need to have airflow to prevent that. So a powdery mildew would happen much more likely on this than on this, just because of the airflow. And I've got a nice squash coming in right there. And these guys are starting to send off their little female fruits down there as well. So that's another patty pan. And then the potatoes, which I'm noticing some yellowing on these leaves, which is weird because these are much smaller than the other ones. So I'm not sure what that's all about. So I'll have to keep my eye on them for these yellow leaves and hopefully not have to pull them all out. And then the winter squash that's growing in here is looking good too. So that's that. This is just fun watching everything grow. I think it's going to outgrow its space before I know it, and I'm going to have to be pushing back this fence line again. So we'll see. Anyway, I've got to go in for the night, finish cleaning up the house, talk to the husband. So I will see you guys later.